In just 2 years, the Nintendo Switch has accomplished what Microsoft is entering their 6th year still trying to achieve. A defined, exclusive heavy market presence and a powerful momentum that makes people love owning the console itself. Sadly, where the likes of Don Matrick put one foot wrong and the other in his mouth, Nintendo have emerged out of the disastrous Wii U period with a fire in their hearts and a pop culture identity we've not seen since the N64. All it takes is a half-hour Nintendo Direct to reduce us to tears over something like the Link's Awakening remake, and that's on top of a console already loaded with must-plays and recommendations. Breath of the Wild as a launch game, a new Mario dropping only months after, phenomenal sales that show no signs of stopping, and even an out-of-nowhere gem like frickin' Tetris Battle Royale. This is Nintendo getting back in the saddle, and it is goddamn heartwarming to see. Now, to be honest, yes, of course, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was always going to be number one. That thing is such a masterful execution of game formulae, I crowned it the best game of the generation in another video. So let's leave it here for a change, and I'll tell you about 9 other Nintendo Switch games that are the best the system has to offer. Zelda will always be the console's number one in the same way the SNES launched with Super Mario World back in 1991. There's no getting around its omnipotent quality, but taking it out the running makes things way more interesting. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and taking Zelda as our number 10/number 1/ just whatever the hell you want, it's always gonna be there. These are the 9 best Nintendo Switch exclusives so far. Number 9, Fast RMX. Literally the Switch's answer to F-Zero, developer Shinen Multimedia took the highly bankable route of super fast arcade racing, but without the Wipeout-style power-ups. To be honest, the general pace of gameplay is so stupidly fast anyway, you wouldn't have that much time to line up a rocket blast or put down a trap. Running at a steady 60 frames per second even in multiplayer, Fast RMX is all about chaining boost pads together to keep you in a constant state of eyeball-straining tunnel vision. When this thing kicks in, it slaps. You feel the world melt away from the sides of the screen as you start focusing on the middle horizon to dodge whatever's coming next. There are lightning-quick overtakes, aerial stunts, and the occasional sideswipe for good measure. It's an immaculate little game, and one that doesn't feel as though the Switch can pull it off, yet playing Fast RMX lives up to every expectation and then some. Number 8, Octopath Traveler. A snappy-as-hell JRPG throwback to the mid-90s heyday of the genre, Octopath opens with some fantastically written segments, setting up each of your 8 characters with defined motivations and placements in the world. Combat is just as forthright and engaging, letting you build up damage multipliers by using specific attacks, only to let loose after a few turns with some screen-shaking specials. Graphically, it's a head-turner thanks to meshing 2D sprites with 3D backgrounds, a style that I'd love to see the likes of Final Fantasy or Dragon Age try out, and it might be the only way to properly remake Final Fantasies 1 through 6 without messing them up like those god-awful mobile versions. Thankfully, Octopath nods towards the old school while keeping the pace of gameplay, merchant interactions, and dialogue rolling by at a solid pace. Sadly, the second half does dissolve into too much busy work and grinding to get everything moving to the same degree, and the game's handling of group dialogue is just plain weird. Though that doesn't detract too much from an overall package loaded with care, charm, and great script ideas. At least for the first 2/3. Number 7, Snip Eclipse. Let's cut it out together. Onto something that got thoroughly outshined by Zelda back at launch, Snip Eclipse was a tiny project first coded by SFB Games, a 2-person team, only for Nintendo to notice and champion the idea as something that they could help get across the finish line, showcasing it on Switch. Gameplay is puzzle solving by way of Paper Mario, i.e. 2 players take the form of pieces of paper and have to cut each other into a variety of shapes to solve all sorts of scenarios. Think Scribblenauts freeform approach, but with shapes instead of words. A basketball wants to get into a hoop? Make a domed out C shape and carry it there. How about a load of balloons that need popping? Carve yourself into a spike and go on a bursting spree. The puzzles get demonstrably harder once the game has established the mindset you need to continue. But it's in such a solid core mechanic that you can tell SFB had a field day designing scores of different one-off ideas around. Another Switch game perfect for couch co-op. You can play yourself, awkwardly swapping between both characters, but Snip Eclipse is the go-to for a few quick games whenever you fancy a break from anything more story or action focused. Number 6, Super Mario Odyssey. The other pillar to Nintendo's foundational lineup for the Switch is kinda like Zelda, a game you can tell has been afforded the time to iron out every last gameplay kink. Notably the first open-world Mario in years, Odyssey's addictive tendencies come from hoovering up hundreds upon hundreds of moons across its massive play spaces. They're everywhere, from secret theaters housing the first Super Mario Bros. Level itself, to atop the Mushroom Kingdom's castle, locked behind races against Koopas, and buried in full-on 2D recreations of classic Mario gameplay. A love letter to the Porky Plumber himself, Nintendo, and all the fans who stuck by the franchise all these years. It was damn good to have Mario back at such an early stage in the system's lifecycle, especially when he plays better than ever. Number 5, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Smash Bros. Is an exemplary execution of a formula Nintendo nigh on mastered way back in their first installment. At this stage, it means all there's left to do is refine, inject more characters, and up the scope as far as levels go. Thankfully, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate gains its namesake through the largest roster in the franchise's history. And though combat can dissolve into players being launched in all directions thanks to splash damage or being in the wrong place at the wrong time, getting Smash Bros. Combat down is a rush unlike any other Nintendo product. Speaking of that roster, we've got everyone from Kirby to Solid Snake, Castlevania's Simon Belmont to Splatoon's Inklings, all being balanced so the play is forever fair despite the array of moves and possibilities on offer. At least that's what Rach keeps telling me as she once again catches me with Pikachu's down and B move. No, yeah, I'd love to play again. Are you playing as Pikachu again? Oh, good. Great. Mastering the intricacies of any Smash is a Herculean effort, but Ultimate Story Mode eases you in nicely, only for the multiplayer to remain that natural next step that only a select few will comfortably get down. Number 4, Mario and Rabbids, Kingdom Battle. Not for a second did anyone expect a crossover between Super Mario and the Rabbids to not only be good, not only be enjoyable, but to be tactically deep and incredibly rewarding. Simply because Ubisoft put the focus on how many things you can do per turn, rather than just thinking 4 or 5 moves in advance, it changes the very pace of combat in a very pleasant way. No longer are you setting up elaborate pincer movements or flanking maneuvers, though they are valid too, but seeing if you can slide into one enemy, leap off the head of another, and come crashing down on a third, all before using your character's main abilities. In terms of balance and your roster of characters, each hero feels worth combining. It's actually a tough choice deciding who to take and who to leave behind, which is truly the mark of a well-designed strategy title. Look, I know how insane it is putting this above something like Mario Odyssey, but as games overall, Kingdom Battle is immensely better designed and paced, with a learning curve that only flexes in natural ways the more time you invest. Oh, and it's maybe the best looking game on the system in terms of rendered characters and backgrounds. Put this up against any game with a cutesy art direction on the PS4 or Xbox One and it totally holds its own. Number 3, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. There's a chaos to the action of Mario Kart that belies its true mastery of multiplayer. A real concoction of devastating power-ups and last-minute position stealers that can occasionally feel cheap, yet reinforces the notion that this is a Mario Kart for the widest audience possible. Whether you're a 27-year-strong pro or are just drifting in now, the way Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is coded always ensures there's a strong sense of competition. Mastering the intricacies that lie inside its simplistic control scheme shines a light on just how much Nintendo have continually mastered the kart racing genre. At least as much as they can while being in second place to Crash Team Racing. No, seriously, fight me. And that's before you delve into the endlessly customizable combinations of racers and their myriad karts, bikes, wheels, and gliders. There's also the neatly reworked battle mode, the best graphics of the franchise, more characters than ever, and an online mode providing endless just one more race-style replayability. If you own a Switch, this is essential. Number 2, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu / Eevee. Its DNA might be straight out of 1998, but Game Freak completely overhauled the vast majority of Pokemon Yellow to become Let's Go, with just the right amount of Pokemon Go's influence speeding up gameplay tenfold. The result is one of the finest top-down RPGs ever made, being given just the right amount of modernization to make it work all over again, the exemplary nostalgic fan service just being a cherry on top. Best of all, Game Freak have removed the grind many players tend to forget drag down those older installments. Not only can you see which Pokemon are out in the wild to be caught or avoided, but XP is spread across your party after catching, with that itself being done with berries and targeted throws just like in Pokemon Go. The world is just as layered with secrets and hidden routes as before, and retroactive additions like Mega Evolutions and Alolan forms give you more reason to explore and trade. Also, you can bring any Pokemon out of its ball to wander alongside you, with unique animations like hugging Snorlax so tight that you waddle along with him, Finn and Jake style, or you can just fly your pet Charizard from gym to gym instead. Fans of the original 150 just wanted to play a love letter to their childhood, and while Pokemon Let's Go does tick that box, it's objectively a supremely well-balanced, rewarding RPG on top. Number 1, Splatoon 2. The best online multiplayer game Nintendo have ever made, and that's saying a lot considering it was up against Mario Kart. Splatoon 2 not only supplants kill counts for environments caked in paint, a genre twist that's so Nintendo, but thanks to a live event structure, cycling maps every few hours, and community events every few months, it lets you focus on mastering different aspects of the full product each time. Weapons are brilliantly inventive, ranging from shotgun blast paint buckets to giant paint rollers, twin pistol splat julies, and ink brushes, as the gear you unlock can be grinded out to improve specific stats or traded for that perfect loadout. The game's overall art direction is just so lovable and unique. Its creation of squid punk kids listening to unique music being the perfect backing for a sport where everyone gets covered in paint before chowing down on seafood served by a giant lobster called Krusty Sean. Deceptively deep with one of the best franchise identities Nintendo have ever thought of, Splatoon 2 remains just as essential a play as Overwatch, Call of Duty, Apex Legends, or anything else you can think of in the online space. And that is my list. Let me know what your top Nintendo Switch games are down in the comments. And no, you can't pick Zelda. You've got to pick something else. I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com. Please check out the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast, and I'll catch you soon.